Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm Luke from A Taste of AZ. On today's episode of the podcast, we sit down with one of the founders of Literal Rituals, one of Phoenix's top cocktail bars. Christina joined along with us, so this is one awesome episode. So, welcome everyone. We are here at Literal Rituals with Christina and Aaron. Aaron, what is your position here exactly?
I'm a partner with Ross Simon in the business, and I sort of run the day-to-day. I guess you could call me the general manager, bar director, whatever you'd prefer.
Fantastic. So, how long has Literal Rituals been here for?
We opened in January of 2019, and we had just... unofficially, that was sort of our soft rollout. We're just going to open the doors and see what happens for a few weeks.
And I should add, it was highly anticipated because Aaron had already made a name for himself in the Valley. So we were quite excited to hear about teaming up with Ross and opening a brand new concept.
Yeah, and it took a lot longer than we thought, too. It was one of those projects where I moved up in the beginning of 2018 thinking we would be open by May, and May turned into September, turned into December, and then it took a whole year longer than what we thought.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
This space we're sitting in here was an actual fully developed room. It was basically brand new, untouched Marriott bar. It just hadn't actually been put to use. Unfortunately, we had to demo a lot of the existing stuff in here, and I mean, it didn't look anything like this. This was a white room.
Wow.
I still have the photos. It's very crazy to see what they looked like before we did this. But
it must have been great to have a blank slate.
It was. And it was great to have fully done bathrooms and things like that a lot of other people struggle with in other spots. I've heard bathrooms are one of the most difficult things in some locations to try to do economically and get done right. So we have these massive bathrooms. This is only a 75-person lounge, and I think we might have 7 stalls in the women's restroom, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sophisticated bathrooms.
I mean, I need to figure out something to put in there to fill it out. So maybe we'll put some couches and perhaps a lounge area. It's that type of space. But
So what brought you to this location?
Well, we partnered with the hotel ownership, who is also partnered with Bitter and Twisted. So they were looking to put some sort of a concept up here, and they already had the track record of Bitter and Twisted on the corner. So they said, "Hey, Ross, Aaron, why don't you guys come up here and do something similar in that we're going to be a high-end cocktail destination, but also very different." And that's one thing I want to really emphasize is that we didn't approach this as Bitter and Twisted Part 2. This is definitely a separate concept, a different menu, a different direction. We wanted to maintain some of the service standards and the things that make Bitter and Twisted so excellent. We wanted to maintain that framework, but do it in a completely different way with different inspirations, maybe a more sort of international flair to it, a lot more different spirits, and a focus on fortified wines. That was one of the other things that we did from the beginning here. So that was kind of the concept that ownership came to us with, and we were excited to do it. Now, there are pluses and minuses of being located where we are. Being on the 4th floor is great because it does feel tucked away. We've got a view. We're inside of a hotel that has built-in business. But not being on the street definitely takes you out of view of people. Oftentimes I see in Instagram stories and TikTok people saying, "Check out this hidden bar," and I'm like, we're a hidden bar? I'm trying to spend money on marketing.
Hidden.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we definitely are not hidden. We're definitely not a speakeasy. But our location and the way we're set up kind of lends to a little bit of that feel, which is not always a bad thing.
Well, so Christina mentioned that you had made a name for yourself before Literal Rituals opened up. Take me back even before that. Did you grow up here in the Valley?
I didn't grow up in Phoenix. I grew up in Tucson, which is a completely sort of different style of life and culture. I've always liked Phoenix since I've been old enough to kind of come up here and do things. It was always where you went to go see concerts, or once I started getting into the bar business, it was where you went to go see new and exciting bars opening up. Because in Tucson, unfortunately, the pace of development is a lot slower. So in Tucson, a new bar will open up a couple times a year. In Phoenix, it's pretty much every day. I feel like there's a new bar every single day.
I do too.
I mean,
there's always a list.
They're running you around town, Christina. It's too much to do.
But I do have my favorites. So.
And find out about all those new bars by following Christina on social media at RightOnRuby, because she's posting stuff all the time. It's definitely a need to follow person.
Oh, thank you.
That's what I do. I don't have time to go, gallivanting around the valley. So yeah, it's a one-stop shop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's especially fun in the spring when everybody releases their new menus. So we have quite a few that we still have to hit, but it's great. As you were talking about Phoenix and their beverage scene, it's everybody's just so talented.
Oh, absolutely. And that was kind of, I would come up and try to get inspiration and make connections with people up here. When it was time for me to open a bar, which I feel was probably a while ago, it took me a lot longer than I thought. I thought when I turned 30, that's when I'm going to start making moves. And then when I turned 35, I was like, okay, this is about the time for me to start making some moves. It took me a little longer than that. But yeah, so I moved up here to do this project with Ross because I had a lot of connections up here. I felt like a community of people I could rely on, and a lot of good contacts. And
I feel like I met you at Cocktail Week.
Oh,
or
yeah, it was
at
definitely
a competition. I know you've done a lot of competitions.
Yeah, I mean, definitely day one of Cocktail Week, which has been around, basically is a 10-year. We'll be celebrating our 10-year anniversary. Wow. It would have been this year, but unfortunately, the pandemic sort of curtailed that. But starting next year, we will be celebrating our 10-year. But I think that was probably where we met and solidified a lot of relationships with Cocktail Week. I think it's been a really great force in Arizona for bringing the community together. And that helped me have the confidence to come up here and do it. Because it is daunting to go into a new city you've never lived in and try to establish a bar where a bar is so much of a community thing. It's driven by who you know and who you can get to come in. So, luckily Ross has a bit of a name in the valley, so we have that to lean on. And I think people had heard of me just from me coming up here all the time and crashing all their parties and their events. So.
And some of us went down to Tucson to visit him and have his delicious drinks at the casino.
Yeah, and I was at the Casino del Sol for a while. That was definitely a very important experience for me. I'd never done anything to that scale. They gave me a lot of freedom to do a lot of things there.
And I know the chef there is very much like sourcing local. I think you told me that he makes fresh butter. Weekly or every...
Yeah, I mean, like Chef Ryan Clark down there is incredible. Unfortunately, I didn't get to work with Ryan for as many years as I would have liked. If he'd been there from the beginning, it would have been, fantastic. But I was privileged enough to, have a couple years with him on the tail end when I was leaving to do this. But it was a great experience. Definitely prepared me for a lot of different challenges. It's a different world, being in a gaming environment. Definitely different clientele every day, and you never knew what to expect. Sometimes you could have a lot of enthusiasm about craft cocktails, and sometimes you would get zero. So
Red Bull everywhere.
Yeah, lots of Red Bull, lots of Miller Lite.
But I loved it because you go into this casino, and I went when Ryan Clark was there. So you have this wonderful chef sourcing locally, and making sure he's making their own butter for the casino. I mean, I'd never heard of that.
Wow.
Usually they buy it in batch, and then you had Aaron, in the front of the house or at the bar making these amazing cocktails.
So what exactly were you doing at the casino?
Well, we did a full Tony Abou-Ganim, very influential, one of my top mentors. He sort of brought me on there in 2011, and he was tasked with implementing a Bellagio-style drinks program to this.
Oh, that makes sense now.
So they were like, well, this is the guy who did the drinks at the Bellagio. Let's have him come and do this project, which was very similar to the Bellagio in a lot of ways in terms of the look and feel. So he was able to work with me, and when we rolled out a fresh juice program, and we were doing things sort of at a casino-wide way that were not being done at a lot of bars in Arizona, period. So that was pretty exciting. It's very challenging too, though. I mean, there's a lot of obstacles, but I think our steakhouse was fantastic. We were really able to maintain some great cocktails on the list there. And still some of the best meals I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, he's one of Tucson's best chefs. He has his own cookbook.
Yep. It's a Southwestern cookbook, yeah.
So when I do the Tucson article for the magazine, I will be including PY Steakhouse.
Awesome. So as you're working at the casino, what kind of things are you learning about the cocktail business and the food and beverage business that you maybe didn't expect or really kind of shaped the direction that you ended up going?
Well, I think that one of the things it did is it afforded me the ability to focus very much so on cocktails. Before I was an operator where I was running businesses for people or managing places for people on day-to-day, doing a lot of stuff in the back of the house and scheduling and hiring and firing, and those type of things take up quite a bit of time. I was able to focus almost exclusively on cocktails and on drinks and furthering my drink education, my spirits knowledge. I did a lot of intensive training, Bar 5 Day in New York City, some things that challenged me personally and professionally. So coming out of that experience, I had a really good grasp on making a lot of ingredients in-house, making them really, really well, having spent a lot of time developing them. So I had a wealth of knowledge to bring to whatever concept that we opened. And so when we started conceptualizing Little Rituals, I sort of, I had a binder full of ideas and things to use, which didn't mean that it was any easier for me. It still took forever for me to come up with the drinks, and I second guessed myself. And then at the end of that, the gauntlet is I have to present these drinks to my partner and make sure that he likes them all too, and that we agree that this is the direction we want to go.
What was the percentage of drinks you presented and that you kept for the first menu?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, it was actually pretty high, but again, because
I was expecting that.
But
answer.
I agonized over them, so it's one of those things where for every drink I presented to to Ross and myself when we put it out and said, what do you think about this? For every one of those drinks, there were probably 2 to 3 that I had in my file that I had been, I have a little notes file that I just keep adding new drinks and cocktails to, and a lot of them will never see the light of day. I do a majority of my work on drinks, believe it or not, on paper. I don't do a lot of it behind the bar. Because I've tasted most of the ingredients, I kind of know exactly how they're going to play together. I've used spreadsheets before to develop drinks where you're kind of saying, okay, these are the different flavor profiles and acidity profiles, and this is the pH that the drink should be, and this is the balance that it needs to be. And you can do 90% of the work all the way up until you put the ingredients together. And sometimes you'll put 4 things together that you absolutely know work perfectly, and they don't. It's just a magic. That's sort of that magic, the little bit of drink magic, that little bit of alchemy at the end there. That sometimes it takes a twist. And Ross is really excellent at that, where he will come in and he'll make a little tweak, or he'll say, it needs a little something else. And we'll end up making that adjustment that takes the drink from being really, really good, where I would have put it out and said, this is the drink, and he'll take it, or with garnishes. He's a wizard with garnishes. So I think when we collaborate on garnishes, we end up with some really cool, stunning things. I think that's one of the hallmarks of what we've done here.
Yeah, he has a lot of, if you've gone to Bitter and Twisted, there's a lot of whimsical and entertaining garnishes over there, which make the drink look so fun.
And he makes drinking fun, which is know something we should aspire to. I mean, it can't all just be glasses of whiskey. I feel like that's kind of the speakeasy classic cocktail route that we went for quite a few years there. I mean, really from like 2008 up until probably 2015 was very much about, we're just going to make these really austere old fashions, and these really, gonna have
That's
a piece,
true.
piece of hand cut ice,
when
and
we
this is what
first
it
moved,
is.
it was all mojitos everywhere. So then it went towards, let's take our drinks seriously
really seriously.
with boozy brown, pour
But like,
drinks.
what's more delicious than a mojito? I mean, like really, truly, like a good mojito. I mean, if drinks are made well, I mean, I don't know. There are so many amazing cocktails. It's just, and we pay attention to a lot of things here. The freshness of what we're putting out, making sure, that's one thing that's really important. If you're not checking your citrus, if you're not making sure that that's fresh, if you're not taking steps to keep your fortified wines fresh,
And I think we talked earlier that you make almost over 100 tinctures and infusions and bitters.
And I'll say this right off the bat. It's not on purpose. My philosophy is if somebody makes something commercially that is better than what you can do, don't be a hero and don't decide, well, I'm going to make this syrup. You know what I mean? If somebody makes a really fantastic vermouth, I don't need to make my own vermouth to try to, Now, if I need a very specific flavor and it's not available, that tends to be what we do. So, or we will alter something for our purposes. Like on this new menu, we use a Embrato vermouth from Martini and Rossi, which is delicious, and we infuse it with fresh dill. Very simple, not like a lot of work, but that is still a house-made ingredient. Somebody has to go back there and do the infusion.
And something you won't get anywhere else.
That's something you will not get anywhere else, but it has to be done. So those are all things. So I mean, it's not like we're doing 100 really incredibly intricate things, but all those little steps, those little rituals, if you will,
it's all in the little rituals.
Yes,
that's the hashtag, by the way.
Goes into making these drinks, and I think our best drinks, and I think the best drinks in the world, are all 5 ingredients or less. Generally, if you can make 5 ingredients work really well together, then you get a fantastic
like
result.
this Neron cocktail.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about the herbed cinnamon syrup that goes into this one.
Yes. So that's another one of those house-made ingredients that it's not super complex, but I guess it is if you look at the recipe, if you're not somebody who makes it all the time. For us that make it all the time, it's like one of the easier things for us to do, but we're essentially infusing dried herbs de Provence into a really high-quality cane syrup, like a rich cane syrup.
That sounds fantastic.
And we add some toasted cinnamon in there. And it's not a lot. It's not like we're putting fistfuls of cinnamon. We're not trying to get I've made cinnamon syrup on the stove and gotten this rich, dark, almost red-looking syrup that you put into cocktails, and it's just like, ooh, that tastes like fall. The idea with this was not to make it taste like fall, but was to have enough cinnamon so that it would interact with some of the other components. It was for a specific cocktail. It still is. We like to cross-utilize. Since we do have these 100 things that we make, we don't want to just throw them out each time we do a new menu. We like to try to reincorporate them if possible.
Well, it's like a pantry in your kitchen.
Yeah.
You want, when you go through so much work, you want to keep those
you
seasoning agents.
Yeah, you can't buy all new spices every time you go shopping, just for a new thing. So, yeah, and it's very versatile. We can use it in a lot of different things. Because it's a rich syrup, you don't need a whole lot of it. For the cocktail you're drinking today, it's only a half an ounce. So we use that. We think it's fantastic. But yeah, keeping the drinks to a minimum of ingredients. We do have a few drinks that are pushing the envelope, more like closer to 7 ingredients. But I think truly our best ones are 5 or less. The Melancholia one that you featured, which is on our new menu. Yeah, that one's 3 ingredients. Well, 4, I guess, if you count a little bit of saline. We put a little like sea salt tincture in there.
Those are the little rituals that make such a difference in their cocktails here.
So tell us about the inspiration behind the name a little bit then.
The Melancholia one?
No, the Little Rituals name.
Oh, Little Rituals. So I mean that's the actual inspiration there. There are so many things that we do just when you come into this bar and you sit down and you have a cocktail. There are so many steps that are involved in that experience for you. A lot of which you won't notice or see because they're done ahead of time or behind the scenes or in our preparation or in our steps of service. But they all come together to deliver what we like to think is a pretty good experience. When you sit down, we like to give you an amazing cocktail, the best service we possibly can, incredible food. And in order for us to achieve that, there are so many little steps that we have to go through, whether it's getting the perfect ingredients, cutting the right garnishes, stocking everything, arranging our mise en place on our well so that we can execute these cocktails. I mean, we've got only 30 on the menu, which is a lot for a lot of craft places. That's more than a lot of places, but Bitter and Twisted has like double that. So
wow.
It's not the most in the world, but there's 30 pretty intricate
something
drinks.
For everybody.
There is, yeah. And a majority of the cocktails we're making from scratch. Not everything is batched. We do have some things that are put together before service just because the only times we really do that are when we don't have room to put all the bottles in front of us. But our bartenders make things pull a minute from scratch for the most part.
And they welcome everybody with a complimentary.
Yeah, little espresso martini when you sit down.
Oh, wow.
So that's the part of the little ritual is, and everyone has their own rituals in their own daily life. You have a place you go to after work, or you have a place you go to on Fridays. That's your little ritual for going out. We want to be part of people's rituals. We want coming here to be something they do every time there's a birthday, every time there's a celebration, and then just every Friday. Or maybe every Wednesday, if you could.
I would like to do
Wednesdays
that.
are a great day to come in. So that's kind of the genesis of the name. After we came up with the name, we've noticed it was featured. The term Little Rituals is featured actually in other bartending literature and stuff. Like not intentionally. It was never an intentional we read something and we took it from there. It was more like other people recognize this same phrase, and so it ties in really well with the bartending culture.
And even, aside from execution, even, I want to talk about the mural a little bit and the drink, but also you did the cocktail menu as a with snapshots.
Yes.
You've done it as a photography book. Could you explain a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
about that?
So the cocktail menu, which unfortunately right now is on hiatus in terms of the physical cocktail menu, they're very beautiful. We designed it to look like an old photo album with memories, and we want to create memories here. We want this to be a memorable drinking experience. So we figured all these cocktails would be they're like photo memories. So we designed our graphic designer and our illustrator who does the Bitter and Twisted menu, Matt Andrews. He also did the mural that's everyone takes pictures of on the wall, the Arizona mural. So he illustrated photos of our cocktails. Now, when you do something like take a photo of a cocktail and have it illustrated and you put it into a menu for every single cocktail, you have to deliver on the goods. The cocktail has to come out and look like the picture. And I think a lot of times, consistency in bars is something that people struggle with, at different stages of development. Like there are a lot of bars that are doing craft cocktails and it's great and it's admirable and they should continue to do that. Some of them are, they have smaller lists, or they're, if an old fashioned comes out and it doesn't look perfect, it doesn't matter because of the kind of place they are or what type of experience they're trying to provide. If I go to a music festival and somebody hands me an old fashioned, it doesn't matter that the garnish isn't trimmed. You know what I mean? It does not matter, right? But in a place like here where that's the focus, you're coming here for that. You're coming here for the cocktail experience. All those things have to be done and done well and done consistently. So we've sort of set a high bar for ourselves with those pictures and just with what we're promising. And so we have to deliver. And that's the daily struggle. And I think for the most part, we succeed in that.
And I love it because, again, it's just another layer of something so unique, but so inviting. And it captures the spirit of the place that each drink you took so much time to cut, and they're set in those, those old photo albums that had the corners, the black corners. That's kind of how it looks like the drinks are set in.
Yeah, it's set in there. Now, we tried logistically to actually do that and sort of have these things that we put in individually. And unfortunately, from a design standpoint, it was a lot easier for us to make it look like that and not actually have, because now we have to switch out the whole page inside. It's like an insert. So we can't change out one particular cocktail. It's got to be the whole page.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so what we do is twice a year, we change out between a quarter and a third of the menu. So somewhere between 5 and 10 drinks. This time around, we elected to only sort of change out 5 cocktails. So we have 5 new cocktails on there. We got rid of one, and we actually moved. Originally, we originally had like a shared page where we had shared cocktails. We found a way to reincorporate that into other pages, and we took some of those items and actually moved them. Like we have a champagne and fries thing that was on the menu. We took that and moved it to the actual champagne section. So we gained another cocktail. So now we actually do have legitimately 30 cocktails on there.
And that's what's fun too. They have these kind of group cocktails where you can come with friends.
Oh yeah, the punch is very our punch is very famous, I guess, or infamous, whatever way you want to look at it. But it looks both ways. And it rotates, but it comes out in an absinthe fountain, this glowing absinthe fountain. And so really, like, it's once one goes out, 3 or 4 are right behind it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the Taste of AZ team might need to come in for one of those.
I think so. Yeah, it sounds.
It's a great. It's a great value. It's great fun. We tried to do some little touches like that to make this more of a fun place. As we've gotten busier and since we've changed our model to reservation only, you don't have quite as long. I think people used to come and some people would stay for 3 or 4 hours. Now during the week, it's certainly doable. Like, we don't rush people out the door. I know we normally have reservation times that are between 90 minutes and 120 minutes, depending on your group size. But during the week, we don't ever kick people out.
Right.
So if there are no other people reserved behind you, we don't say, okay, your time is up.
Some of those people that linger might be sitting at this table right now.
Yeah, we always try to get everyone to stay as long as they want.
Who wants to leave here? Nobody wants to leave.
But but unfortunately, like on a Friday, like tonight, since we're filming on a Friday, we will be completely booked for the entire evening from moment 1 until the end. So.
Wow.
Which is great, because in the beginning, even though you encouraged reservations, we used to be first come first serve, and one of the things that was bad about that is everyone thought, okay, well we'll just come around 9 o'clock. So everyone had that theory. So right around 9 o'clock, we would
have no one in here for hours, and then we would, and I've never seen this with a craft place like this, but we would have these rushes between 9 and 11 or 9 and 12, where it would be a line out the door and just people trying to come in like it was a nightclub, and it's not a nightclub. So we went to the reservation model once we hit the pandemic and we reopened. There's a lot of things that people wish were different in terms of like being able to stay as long as you want. But we think it's also, from a safety perspective and from a flow perspective. And I think that when you're here,
and a practical perspective. So I don't think it's offensive to people because they understand it.
Right.
You're not.
And so many other places have adopted a reservation model too. I don't see any. I think it's great. It's been great for us. I think a lot of people do appreciate it. Some people not as much, but.
Well, if you're supporting the business too, that's a way to support the business.
Yes.
To understand that business model and
Absolutely.
why that's necessary for success.
Yeah, and it's also a way to guarantee you that you can come in.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, it's on a Friday and Saturday before, it's like, what are you going to do? You're just going to throw yourself on a wait list and just hope? Mm-hmm. We don't have an infinite amount of seating. That's one of the things. We're mid-sized, I would say. We're not the smallest bar, but we also are deceptively small in that, we really can only seat, when we're fully operational, 75 people is like really pushing it, because we don't cram people in here. That's another thing that we don't do.
Yeah, and that's another reason I like this place too.
Yeah.
It feels like you can go on a date night. You can, take somebody out on the anniversary. You could bring your parents here.
Sure.
It's just very inviting and sophisticated. So good job, Aaron.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, and you can tell that kind of ideology runs throughout the business, because I think with the cocktail menu the way it is, I remember the first time I came in, and it was before I had drinking very many craft cocktails, and so being able to see a picture of the drink just makes it not only more appetizing because you can see what you're going to drink, but it invites people who maybe haven't dug into an experience like this before to be comfortable with it. And I think from that to the way you're doing the seating and the appointments to get in, it creates an experience where it feels slightly it's an easier experience to get into because you know what's coming your way.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think the pictures do help out quite a bit. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming still. People look and they just say, there's so many good things on here. We do have a rigorous amount of training, and everybody who works here knows, as much as possible about everything that we're serving. And so they can answer pretty much any questions about it. And they can definitely recommend to people the flavor profiles that that would match up most. It doesn't always work. Somebody will come in and they will be dead set on having that stirred mezcal cocktail, even though when we ask them, what do you normally drink? And they'll say, like vodka, like a vodka soda. And then, and then they go down the stirred mezcal route and it's like, oh,
yeah,
like
that's so polarizing.
Yeah, this is a little different. I do think we have a lot of, and then we can of course do dealer's choice. And a lot of people ask things like, don't you do old fashions here? And we're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like we'll make you a great old fashioned. It's just not on our menu because, we think we've got 30 really fantastic, unique things that you won't find anywhere else.
But they will say, well, if you like an old-fashioned, you might want to try this.
Yep. Sure. Well, so speaking of one of those many fantastic cocktails, tell me a little bit more about this one that Christina and I are drinking right now.
So this cocktail is with Mezcal Neron, which is really fantastic stuff. I think one of the challenges to making... Now, mezcal is so varied, and depending on what agave is being used in the process, they're all different. They all have their own unique, some will say terroir, some will say, I like to use sort of a distillery-specific character to them. Based on the process, they all come out different. They have varying levels of smoke or no smoke. Rusticness is almost like a term I use with mezcal. It's like depending on what kind of still it's coming out of. Was it distilled through a tree trunk? Was it a clay pot still? There's so many different options that it could be. And a lot of times those characteristics make them more rustic, make the esters and, all these different chemical compounds that can create in mezcal sometimes pleasing, sometimes off flavors. Those are in varying concentrations. And this, I think, Mezcal Neron is still very approachable, but it does still have all of those, characteristics and that wildness and that rusticness that you want in mezcal that you're looking for. One of the things,
they're also owned. One of the owners lives in Phoenix, so I like to support them because it's a local owner also.
Yeah, Abel and Ivan,
yep.
The folks behind Mezcal Carreño and Mezcal Neron here in the Valley, fantastic people, always supporting the local scene.
Yep.
So it's awesome to see.
They do a lot for the community too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
100%. Abel's the new president of the
USBG.
The USBG, the Bartenders Guild here in Phoenix, the chapter. He's doing an incredible job. But from day one, he's been very supportive almost across the board of every type of spirit event and every type of culinary event. And so we like to support people who care about this community and the downtown community. We brought Mezcal Neron on. We're doing a lot of stuff with it. It's sort of becoming one of our top mezcal tools, if you will. And we oftentimes will use multiple mezcals. I know some people have one that they use to mix with, but I think you need more than one because, again, they're so varied and the characteristics are different. One thing that is shared amongst a lot of mezcals is sort of a salinity and a mineral quality, which I think pairs really well with cinnamon, and specifically like a cinnamon bark type of, like the dustiness of cinnamon is present in mezcal. So for the cocktail you're drinking today, we wanted to bring a little bit of that cinnamon in there to pair really well with the mezcal. So we used that herb cinnamon syrup we were talking about earlier with the herbes de Provence. The herbes de Provence has a lot of really great herbal qualities to it, which also are present in mezcals.
And I feel like because of that, you can taste the herbs woven throughout the drink.
Yes, yes. And they sort of intermingle. We also paired it with, and this is a house style, one of the things that we like to do. We like to use fortified wines like vermouth and sherry as a bridge, a flavor bridge, if you will, between different ingredients and flavors. So in this one, the bridge is a half an ounce of a new product called La Copa. It's by Gonzalez Baez. It's like a sherry-based vermouth, Fino sherry specifically. Fino sherry has some salinity and some mineral qualities to it. It's also got a good amount of acidity. This vermouth has a lot of herbs too, so it really helps bridge all of those flavors. And then a little bit of fresh lemon juice, and then Galliano. Galliano, again, another very underutilized and also intensely herbal liqueur that can help bring all those flavors together and melt them. We like to take a lot of independent flavors and turn them into something completely unique, where you can still make out the independent components, but that the overall result needs to be something different. If I want a mezcal cocktail, I don't just want 3 separate components in a glass, that I can just taste those 3 components. I would preferably like to taste something new that I didn't have before. And then some fresh lemon expression in the thyme garnish there. Lemon and thyme is just such a great classic pairing there.
Yeah, these go down easy, don't they, Luke?
Absolutely. It's very delicious, and the way you said that it was interwoven throughout the drink, that's like the perfect way to describe it, because it's like a fine meal. The taste of it evolves as you drink it, and it's just as delicious, if not more delicious, on the last sip than it was on the first sip, because it evolves. It's really a special cocktail, I think, and I'm excited to be trying it here with you and have you explain it like you did.
And Aaron will be sharing the recipe in the next issue of the magazine.
Yeah, so where and when will people be able to find this cocktail?
I'm sure we can make it here. Probably only here, I would imagine. Only here. We could probably make it at any point in time. Those are all ingredients that we use quite a bit. The vermouth, we're very big on the vermouth. It made its way into, wormed its way into 2 cocktails.
And you said it's new.
This time around. It's very new product to the market, probably in the last year or so. It came out during the pandemic, so I doubt that anyone really on the on-premise side got to really experiment with it very much. But it's really fantastic stuff. Makes great. It's in our martini, our new martini that we have on our list called the Crisp Martini, where we were trying to bring this great tang and freshness to a traditional dry martini, and so that it made its way into that. But yeah, we can make those. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll be in the running for a menu cocktail down the road. But one thing is, now, instead of having to face my partner and say, "Hey, are these drinks good?" One of the other things that we do now is our entire team collaborates on every menu. And so I need to make it through the gauntlet of all the other bartenders here and the other servers.
Right.
If I can't get their buy-in on the drink, then it's not going to go on there. And honestly, I prefer most of the drinks to come from them now too. I get a couple in there. I get my hits, but if I can have my team put out, 7 or 8 cocktails, and I only get 1 or I get none because their drinks are so good, I'm fine with that. I have enough things to do, and I'll save the cocktails for a rainy day down the road for something else. But and we're very lucky. Some of the cocktails that have come out on the last couple menus have been driven by the team and really just, I think, fantastic.
I love that kind of collaboration.
Absolutely.
And, it shows, and then it's imparted to the customers. And we had talked about what to expect when you visit here. Can you tell us a little bit about the mural, which is right next to the bar? I know it gets a lot of attention.
Sure, yeah. The mural started off, we originally had an idea where we wanted, basically the way the room is laid out, if you were to look out the window and track from all the way around the room going left, we wanted at some point a mural to be on the wall that looked like you were looking out onto Phoenix as it was 100 years ago, and have it melded with.
Wow.
And of course, it didn't work. See, that sounds like, coming out of my mouth now, I realize.
Yeah, but it sounded like such a cool
insane
idea.
that it was. Yeah, because you'd almost be looking out the window, and then as you tracked inside it morphed into this old. You'd see elements of old Phoenix the way it exactly would look if you were looking out the window here 100 years ago. That did not work. So,
but it
when
sounds
that did not
like
work,
a
yeah,
brilliant
yeah,
idea.
seriously.
So we had, we had some artist collaboration and our illustrator, he just does fantastic work. He ended up finishing that mural, and it looked fantastic. We took images and iconic images from around Arizona and found a way to blend them all sort of seamlessly into this celebration of Arizona heritage and culture and statehood. So there are a few things on there that people are,
there's like Easter eggs on there.
Yeah, there's
right?
like Easter eggs on there. There's some fun
Little
things.
secret things.
There's some things people are like, why is that person up there? And then you just have to be like, well, it's we celebrate everything. It's the good and the bad, or ones that people don't really understand. They're like, why is Steven Spielberg on there? Why is what's Wonder Woman doing on there? And there is an Arizona.
But I think that's what makes it so interesting, because you can sit there and just be entertained by what you see in the mural. And do you still have that cocktail that you?
We still do. Yeah, it's called Big City Nights. It's got an edible print of the mural on the top of the cocktail.
Oh, that's incredible.
Oh, anytime anybody takes a picture of that on Instagram, it gets
shared it's
everywhere.
Really great, and the cocktail's fantastic, and that's what that herb cinnamon syrup was for originally.
Oh, interesting.
I love the cocktail. I want to say sometimes to people, we do have other drinks. Like people come in, they're just like, I saw this one on Instagram and this is the one I want. And unfortunately, that as good as that cocktail is, it's not for everyone. And so that goes back to us sort of talking people into what their preferences are and which ones we think they're going to enjoy. It's made with a blackberry infused gin, Botanist, really delicious. There are a lot of people who will order that cocktail who do not like gin, and they still don't like gin, and they get the cocktail and they go, well, I don't really like gin. And I'm like, well, it says
that's
here,
what the cocktail
it says here gin on it. I know you saw the picture, but it is, and then a lot of people are won over too. So they'll taste it and say, oh, this is fantastic. I wouldn't have even known. Like, I normally don't like gin, and I like this cocktail. We get that a lot with a lot of our cocktails is, normally I don't enjoy this, but the way you do it, is really approachable.
Is the Cupe Colada still on the menu?
The Cupe Colada is still there. That's, one of those drinks that is an homage to a great bar in London called Cupe, who made this champagne pina colada, which is fantastic. And we wanted to, sort of do something similar and give a nod to them. The problem is that you have to find the ingredients that they use, and they used I think they actually buy a coconut sorbet from the store, which we couldn't get, so we had to sort of reverse engineer and make our own coconut sorbet. That goes back to that house.
So that's actually one of Ernesto's favorite drinks.
Yeah, well, it goes back to why we have all those house-made ingredients. Once again,
you had to.
If there was a good coconut sorbet at Fry's, I probably would buy it, because I don't want to sit there with the ice cream maker for, it's a process. I would say a 2-hour process to make that
just
sorbet.
For this one drink.
Yeah,
That's
to make
incredible.
that one ingredient. So right now, currently, probably my prep person is back there. He's most likely got an old-fashioned ice cream maker with the salt and the rock salt and the pebble ice, and it's churning around there and it's freezing. Also because, for whatever reason, and this is an aside, but can somebody please make like an affordable ice cream maker that makes more than like a couple of quarts at a time? Like, it either goes from 2 quarts that you make automatically, like in a little thing, or you have to spend like $20,000 for something that makes ice cream. It's just insane. There's no in between. So that's why we do it in the old-fashioned bucket. The churning bucket.
Yeah, that's more work.
Yeah.
My grandpa used to do that. I remember I would visit up there and he'd be in the backyard churning some ice cream, and I never really understood why until I tasted it for the first time, and I was like, this is absolutely incredible. It's totally different than anything store-bought, so I could see why you would put in that extra effort.
Oh, yeah. The texture is part of it, and just getting that consistency correct. And any time the drink doesn't come out perfectly, it's mostly because somewhere along the line, and that's the other thing about house-made ingredients. There are so many opportunities for you to make a mistake and ruin what you're doing. You mismeasure, so let's just say you make a strawberry syrup, right? And let's say the strawberries aren't ripe, or somebody mismeasures the sugar or the water or
but
whatever.
Your drinks are so balanced that just that slightest.
Yeah, well, and then any point, and then you take that strawberry syrup and you have to, and let's just say you're a place that batches all those things together. Let's say that they don't put the right amount of strawberry into it. Now all of a sudden, you have this batch that's got like 3 different layers of things that cohave been messed up to make the drink, and overall the drink might end up okay, but it's not the way you envisioned it, or you meticulously tested it. So we have a lot of quality control, a lot of steps where we have to. Our whole team knows what everything tastes like. They taste the drinks constantly,
and the color, I bet you can tell. And
the
just
color,
by the color.
Oh, that's another thing too. So like sometimes with like the Big City Nights, which has got this beautiful purple, pinkish type of color to it because of the blackberry gin. The blackberry gin is right next to our navy rum in the liquor rack. So on a very, very busy night, once in a while, I'll see a Big City Nights come out that has no color to it, or it's
and
it's brown,
exactly
and you say,
what happened.
"Whoa, yeah!" And of course, we catch that. I mean, that's part of like the server and the bartender, and sometimes the bartender will say, "Why does this not look right?" And we'll say, "Most likely, we were going fast and we just grabbed the wrong bottle." And that's why we obsessively taste test and make sure everything's good all the time, and make sure that we can identify by sight most of the time if something's not right, and our servers will push a drink back to the bartender if the garnish is not correct.
So even the servers
even the servers do it. I mean,
knowledgeable.
and that's part of how we've structured our team now, especially since the pandemic since we reopened. Everybody does everything. Our head bartender, Chanel Godwin McMakin, she's fantastic, but she should be behind the bar making drinks all the time. She's been hosting. She's been serving.
The last time I saw
she serves.
Her, she was helping out.
She manages. She does a lot of different things. Like everybody does dishes. Everybody sets up. Everybody cleans. Everybody serves. Everybody busses. I host at least 3 days a week, if not more.
Wow.
Everybody does everything. So.
And again, that's the kind of business we all want to support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been great for everyone's skill set too. I mean, I think overall everyone's better at their service now than they were when they were very specialized. And it was like, you can make drinks and that's great, but you couldn't serve a table. You couldn't,
deal with phone calls coming in.
Yeah, deal with phone calls, or you didn't know anything about our reservation system. And so you had no idea, and you're just saying, why is that host not seating more people, or why are they seating so many people? And it's like, once you go, I didn't even know how crazy it could get at times. I would just always be in a support role, but when you're the person responsible for the whole night seating, you learn a lot, and you have a newfound respect for those positions.
So,
and speaking of everybody taking a role, you also have a great food menu here.
We do, yes. And that's one of the other things that's changed too. There's more of a focus on our food, which is great. The menu's expanded a little bit. We have a chef, Jeremiah Wilhelms. He's done a fantastic job of taking some of the dishes that we had from the beginning that are really popular and reincorporating those into a larger, more cohesive menu. When we opened, I want to say we only had like 8 or 9 menu items. And we thought, oh, that'll be fine. Like they're really good menu items, so people will just really enjoy them. It was very limiting. People just would make the decision to not eat here because they would say, oh, like, yeah, it's great, but like once you've been in and you've had the fries or the pho French dip or something, there wasn't anything else for you, and you'd be like, let's go somewhere else for dinner. So now we're starting to become a little bit more of a dinner spot.
I know that the last time I was here, I was blown away by, of all things, the salad.
Yeah.
That he had this amazing salad on the menu.
Yeah, the salad's great right now. We also have, we just rolled out a New York steak on there. That's really New York strip. That's fantastic. There are some familiar things. Being in a hotel, you have to have some familiar things. But we also like to take a little bit of a risk with some of the flavor combinations. We still maintain quite a bit of Asian influence in a lot of our dishes, partially because the flavors in those type of cuisines are so great for bars. They're just so great. The umami, like the saltiness, like some of the heat, those are all things that you desire as a person who owns a bar, because one, it satisfies people while they're here, but it also makes them want to drink more.
Right.
And
makes them thirsty.
Makes you thirsty, yeah. So that's definitely been something that's kind of been a common thread through most of the dishes. But yeah, we like to think it's a pretty eclectic and unique set of items.
So if someone wants to come and soak in this wonderful cocktail and food experience, how do they go about making a reservation, and what can they expect when they come here?
Well, they can reserve online from our website at any time. You can also reserve if you go to Yelp. You can reserve directly from our Yelp page. And I think also from our Instagram, there's a link as well. And Facebook. There's Book Now button right there.
So you make it easy.
We make it pretty easy, yeah. You can also call. You can call our host stand during business hours, and we're happy to make a reservation up to 14 days in advance.
And Aaron might be working the host stand that
night. I will most likely be
be
the person you talk to make that reservation. But we we encourage reservations all the time. Can't stress this enough. Fridays and Saturdays, it's a must do. I like to say all the time, the chances of being able to walk in on an off night like a Tuesday or a Wednesday they're pretty high. But you never know. You might walk in here just thinking, oh, I don't need to make a reservation because it's a Tuesday, and you'll come in and we'll be completely full. That does happen.
Yeah, it's better to make the reservation so that you're guaranteed a seat.
Absolutely. And
Make your life easier.
We do guarantee that. We try to, always
Do you have a limit on the number of how big a party is?
Yeah, so we don't generally take reservations for parties that are larger than 10. We can take a 10 tops. There's a few places in here we can do it. We're starting to ease up some of those. Obviously, the restrictions no longer in place as a mandate in terms of not being able to have a party larger than 10. But really, we don't have the space to do it. So it's kind of hard for us to say, yeah, sure, bring in your 18 people because there's only one place it can be, and oftentimes that place is booked. So it's definitely something people could reach out about if there were special arrangements, but we're not right now in the business of booking a whole lot of private parties and things like that. So larger bookings like 10 people, we can definitely do those, and those can be made online directly from the reservation, Yelp reservation system. But I think I would say always reserve, and it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for letting us come in here and pick your brain a little bit and hear about your story. And the cocktail is fantastic. What is the name again of the cocktail?
We've got a couple different names that we're
R&D right now.
Okay.
R&D, yeah.
We'll get back to the listeners on the name of the cocktail. But, man, thanks so much. It was a real pleasure hearing everything that you guys have got going on here and trying one of the wonderful cocktails that may or may not make it on the menu at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, of course, we've got a brand new food and drink menu out right now that's got some really fantastic new things on there, and we'd love for you to come in and try.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, everyone, there you have it. Another awesome episode, this time with Aaron, one of the founders of Little Rituals Cocktail Bar. Make sure to follow Little Rituals on social media, as well as A Taste of AZ. See you next time.